Hello and welcome to our gardens. It's a very brisk but beautiful day today, and last night we had our first hard frost. Lots of wind, so we've lost a lot of our annuals for this year and we have tons of leaves all over the garden, but it's a very, very cozy time, and I think it's a wonderful time just to sort of evaluate what's worked and cut back things that are kind of done for the year. In today's episode, we explore an exciting project with the Garden Club of Manchester.
On the other side of the Battenkill is a project that people in town have been working on for quite a few years. It's called the Riverwalk, and they have just finished their fundraising with a big grant.
We have a thoughtful conversation with State Representative Mike Rice about pollinators and the impact of climate change.
Phasing out the use of a class of pesticides called neonicotinoids, which are highly toxic, specifically to bees and other pollinators.
We wander through the vibrant fields of Fleur Farm. And I'll be tackling a few end-of-season tasks to wrap up the garden. So we built this rose arbor this year. We painted it cottage white to match some of our windowsills, and I absolutely love it. But the thing with these kinds of arches is that when you're planting roses or clematis like we've done here, they take kind of a long time to create that beautiful arbor effect that you want, where you're walking through a tunnel of flowers or a beautiful canopy of leaves. So my tip here is to, on that first or second year of your rose arbor, arch, or even pergola, add in annuals, because annuals are bred to just give everything they have in one year. So as you can see with this heavenly blue morning glory, we started this year, we planted it this spring, and it has grown all the way over and completely created the arch that we wanted this year. Now, because this is a slightly shadier spot, we didn't get as many blooms as we wanted, but that doesn't really matter because just having that green archway was really all that I wanted from it. We did get a few of those beautiful, vibrant, blue, huge trumpets of flower, but that wasn't until later in the season. And as you can see here, there are tons of withered little buds. So we were gonna have a great display, but Mother Nature had other plans this hard frost. So we're just clearing out the garden, trying to make it look as beautiful as we can for as long as we can. We'll just unwind this heavenly blue, and then I'm gonna be sharing a few changes that we're making in the borders. Okay, so these are some beautiful phlox that we put in the front of our cottage borders. And the reason that I wanted to do this is because I love how it looks to have varying heights and sort of unexpected surprises all throughout the border. Whereas traditionally you would create a border where you have shorter things in the front and then taller things, kind of this graduation as you go up. I wanted to change it up a little bit, throw something new into the mix, and have these really tall, beautiful phlox in the front. The result has been fantastic and I really, really love them. But unfortunately, these, I love the height, I love what they're doing, I love the scent, I love the color, I love everything about them. However, we just can't really do phlox in the front of the border here. They are just terribly afflicted with rust and powdery mildew, and they just end up looking kind of scruffy for a lot of the year. So what we're gonna do, I love the plants, so we're gonna keep them, but I'm gonna be transplanting them onto the hill just to provide a little bit of, depth, interest, and some height on the hill. Throw them in throughout, maybe a little bit of a prairie style planting up there. But that's really what gardening is all about. Observing your space, observing how nature and your plants commingle together. It's this beautiful kind of marriage between the wild and the cultivated, between nature and how wild and beautiful Mother Earth is, and these beautiful flowers that we put into the garden. So observing that and then seeing what you like, seeing what you love, seeing what nature likes and loves, and then what you don't and what she doesn't, and then just making adjustments. That's kind of part of the fun of gardening, is that it's always evolving and you're always just learning new things and growing. But yeah, sometimes you do have to change things up and move things around. And we were very lucky to go talk to the Garden Club of Manchester about a big change in the making.
We are sitting above the Battenkill River. There's a waterfall just behind us. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it's one of the lovely things about this park. On the other side of the Battenkill is a project that people in town have been working on for quite a few years. It's called the Riverwalk, and they have just finished their fundraising with a big grant. And now the plan is to put a bridge spanning the park all the way across over the river and meet up with the buildings on the other side of the river, and that would be Main Street. Well, this is Depot Street behind me, so it will kind of open up that area where people can go from one side of town to the other. The way we got involved is we heard that they're putting this bridge in, and we heard that it was going to go right through our garden. So suddenly, we are thinking we could really use their help. My name is Susan Hinkel. I've been in the Garden Club of Manchester for over 30 years, having moved to this area from California, so it's a whole different way of gardening that I've learned to do. In the Garden Club, I have been the state president 3 times. I've been the club president once. I've been the director of New England 6 clubs. And presently, I'm on the nominating committee for National Garden Clubs. The Garden Club of Manchester has many facets. At this point, we have just shy of 100 members. We are the largest garden club in the state. So we vie with Burlington Garden Club, but we're better. We give out a scholarship every year to graduating senior in high school from any of the local high schools. We do beautification throughout the town. This is just one of our projects. And it's not just Manchester. Members come from as far away as Winhall, Arlington, but the main thrust we have is Dorset, East Dorset, and Manchester. I became involved with this particular piece of property when it was a gas station, and you can imagine what was under that. The town wanted to get rid of the gas station and just make this into a park. So this is maybe 92, 95 in that area. We thought having a park here would be a great idea. So about this time of year, back in the 94, 95 era, we stood on the corner every weekend when the leaf peepers were here, collecting dimes, $100 bills, whatever we could get. So with that money that we collected, as well as the money the town had, the town bought this property. Unfortunately, this garden has been taken over by bishop's weed, which is a terrible invasive weed, and it has choked out our plants. The trees have grown up because the arborist is no longer with us, and we have so much shade. So we thought we could really take advantage of this project going on. So that's what we're doing now. We're trying to designate what plants, what bushes, trees we want to keep, and then others we've marked that will be taken out. Trying to get rid of the bishop's weed is the big problem, and that I can't tell you how we're going to do it because we're not sure yet. I think I became interested in gardening when I was younger, maybe a teenager. My mom was a gardener. As I said, I didn't live in this area, so I lived in California, and coming here was a whole different way of gardening. I moved here in '91 and didn't know anyone except my husband at the time who grew up here. And I felt it was a great way to meet people, which it definitely is. I also wanted to have help because I didn't know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, whatever. And so the garden club has been a great teacher for me and opened a world of new friends and lots of travel with just getting into the whole national part of it. We have a website that you can go to, and it's gardenclubofmanchester.com. I think it's just .com. So you can definitely get information there.
Isn't that an extraordinary project they have going on? I can't wait to see how it turns out. So I ended up dividing this phlox, and instead of putting it on the hill where we divided it and put the other phlox, I decided to put it in the back of this border. And I think that's going to look really, really nice. It's next to our penstemon. I think that's going to be great, and next to our little boxwood pillar here. So now I'm just going to cut this down at the base so it doesn't get root rock. You know, if these tall stalks are blowing around in the wind, then it can rock the roots and it makes it harder for them to establish. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut these back at the base. I'm also going to be cutting back our dahlias while we're here because just like the morning glory, this hard frost took all of our dahlias, and the soil is still workable. It hasn't frozen yet. So this is a great time to dig up our dahlias. Now, it wasn't a fantastic year for dahlias. You know, we got a lot of rain right when they needed sunshine. And so that was kind of a bummer since we really planted a lot of dahlias this year. But we were very lucky to go visit a beautiful dahlia farm and learn all kinds of tips and best practices. Well, there we go. So I'll go ahead and get these stored for next year. Nestled in the hills of East Dorset, Fleur Farm is nothing short of enchanting. With sweeping fields of dahlias grown for their radiant blooms and hardy tubers, it's a place where color and vibrancy thrive in harmony. Founded on the idea of bringing joy and kindness to those struggling with cognitive health, Fleur Farm has since blossomed into a national distributor of bulbs and tubers, sharing their beauty far and wide. During our visit, Annette, the founder of Fleur, shared some of her secrets for cultivating dahlias that are healthy, resilient, and breathtakingly beautiful. To preserve their tubers, Fleur Farm stores them nestled in pine shavings with open baskets, allowing for gentle airflow while keeping them from drying out. To ensure healthy plants, they conduct soil tests throughout the year to identify any nutrients that might be lacking. For the fullest blooms, dahlias thrive with a touch of potassium. And to encourage bushier growth, any early buds are carefully pinched back to the nearest pair of leaves. As the plants reach for the sky, lower branches are trimmed to improve airflow at the base, warding off mold and disease. Throughout the season, supportive netting provides structure so each flower can grow tall and graceful. Though this season brought its challenges for dahlias, gazing across the fields at Fleur Farm, you'd never suspect it was anything but a perfect year for these flowers. Well, not everything in the garden is looking bad right now. Our salvia and roses, this is the fairy rose, are looking really, really beautiful. But I know that won't last, so I'm going to try and appreciate it as long as I can. But this is a great time to look at your border and see where you might want to add some interest. I think here, where this Play in the Blues salvia is, I'm going to add some beautiful spring bulbs. I'm thinking maybe a few more daffodils. I've been planting ice follies and cassata daffodils. Very, very beautiful, very whimsical looking flowers that come out so early. And I think when we plant bulbs, it really is about planting hope. I mean, gardening is really about hope. And we had a chance to talk to Representative Mike Rice, who has hope at the heart of his mission.
In Vermont, we face a number of sort of coexisting ecological challenges. We see, loss of forest and farmland year over year for decades. We see corresponding loss of biodiversity. We've seen loss of native pollinator species in a big way. And then obviously we face the threat of climate change, and we're seeing the impact of climate change play out on our landscape every day, every year, obviously, whether it's, devastating floods or extremely late frosts or, even beyond the flood, and that sort of specific threat, just increased moisture that we're seeing, cause a lot of problems ecologically and also for farmers and for our food system. I'm Mike Rice. I'm state representative for the Bennington-Rutland district in the House of Representatives. So I serve the people of Danby, Dorset, Landgrove, Mount Tabor, and Peru in the House. So we're here in Emerald Lake State Park in East Dorset, Vermont. We're very proud of our park here in Dorset. We love it. Amazing, obviously, just stunning. You can come here, hang out on the beach in the summer, picnic. There's camping, hiking. You can take your kayak or even rent a paddle boat or a paddleboard here and hang out on the lake. We love it. So I moved to Vermont originally to work on a farm. It was over on the other side of the state, and it was supposed to just be a few months of helping with the harvest. It was a farm that was several different sort of operations sharing the same big piece of historic farmland. And I was working for the folks who were planting and harvesting apples and grapes, making cider and wine and vinegar. And I was supposed to just be there for a few months and totally fell in love with Vermont, with the people, with the landscape, and set about trying to figure out how to make a life here and find a community here. So I worked with the Northeast Organic Farming Association, actually with the Massachusetts chapter, remotely from home here in Vermont. And I worked both on development and fundraising and on policy with them, helped to raise funds and get projects off the ground on soil health policy, lots of really exciting urban agriculture projects that they have going on in Springfield, Mass and other places, and also helped get the Massachusetts Pollinator Network off the ground there, which is a network of advocates and experts from all over the Commonwealth working together on pollinator protection and habitat. I sit on the House Committee on Agriculture, Food Resiliency, and Forestry. It is tasked with all things farm and agriculture policy. Food resiliency is a new part of the title for the committee. And then also forestry is the last part that we're tasked with. And that includes state parks and also the forest products industry in Vermont. This year, we really got to work on trying to protect our pollinators. We passed legislation phasing out the use of a class of pesticides called neonicotinoids, which are highly toxic, specifically to bees and other pollinators, even at extremely low doses. And what we saw was the vast majority of these neonicotinoids in Vermont are coming in on treated seeds, treated corn and soy seeds. So they are coated with the pesticide before they ever reach the farmer. And the farmers don't even have a choice in the matter. They're sort of the only thing that the seed companies, which are the same thing as the chemical companies, have made available on the market. What we saw from the data, we took weeks and weeks of testimony in the committee on this bill, and what we heard was these treated seeds, neonic treated seeds, weren't even providing the benefits they're supposed to for farmers in terms of crop loss protection, revenue protection, and they're wreaking havoc on our pollinator species. We have scores of native pollinators that are considered imperiled or critically imperiled. We've already seen some go regionally extinct or be extirpated from our landscape. So the time to act on this was now. We built a coalition across party lines to pass what I think in the end was a bill that protects our pollinators, protects biodiversity in our landscape without sort of causing undue harm to our farming communities that are just trying to grow food and feed our communities. Also, this past legislative session, we passed a bill to create what we're calling a climate superfund. And so this is taking decades of legal precedents, saying basically the world's largest fossil fuel companies are partially responsible for the devastating impact we're seeing of climate change now. And so they should be a part of the solution too. So basically creates a superfund, uses something called attribution science, which is a way that we can scientifically measure the actual impact of each of these large international fossil fuel companies, how they impacted specifically Vermont, what they're costing when we have these billion-dollar storms that devastate our communities, how much worse they were because of the impact of these companies, and then sends them a bill and says, this is what you owe the people of Vermont. This is going to be how much we're asking you to chip in so that this burden, dealing with the cleanup of these storms and also adapting our communities, making them more resilient in the face of what we know will be ever increasing storms. It says we're not going to put that burden on Vermonters alone. We're going to ask these companies to chip in too. I have a garden at home. It's always a work in progress. This year actually converted, when we moved in to the house, it was 2020. It was peak COVID. And so I planted a huge garden and thought this will be excellent. I'll get all my food from here. It's been changes in priorities over the years. This year, I finally made the decision to plant half of it over to perennials. So planted blueberries and raspberries, asparagus, strawberries in half the garden and kept half of it for my, more modest and realistic vegetable cultivation. Obviously we're not gonna solve the issue of climate change through backyard gardens. It's gonna take collective effort and policy change. But I think that there's a lot of hope in a backyard garden, right? And so if we're doing both, if we're making sure that we're focused on the big picture and we're doing the big things we need to do together, I think you can really get rooted in the goals that we have for taking climate action by spending time in the backyard, in your garden, growing your own tomatoes, doing it, seeing that the real impact of soil health when you take care of the soil just in your own little plot and see what it does for your vegetable production or the nutrients in your food. And I think that it's just a way for us to sort of stay rooted in what really matters and not get discouraged by sort of screaming into the void of the big national and international battles around climate action.
Well, one of the biggest chores this time of year is raking, and it feels like we're doing it all day, every day. But it really is nice to be able to be outside, be amongst all of the animals before everyone goes indoors for the winter. But I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's been such an honor and a joy to share with you all of our beautiful gardens in southern Vermont. So stay hopeful, stay inspired, and happy gardening.